Midwives definitely view childbirth as normal.
Something was not right, and my body knew it from the get-go. The hard part comes into all the emotions and the feelings that come along with that.
Learning how to build trust with your body.
Can you talk a little bit about the role that dad's health plays?
Just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal.
Right, like every baby's a result of a million miracles.
The reality is sperm are not smart. I mean, they're just not. They're not intelligent. They're not smart. Sperm found egg to have a miscarriage.
If you're just being told, well, you're not ovulating correctly, okay, there's other factors at play.
Not always a fertility issue.
Yeah. If she was sitting in this room, what would you say to her?
You need someone to hold hope for you.
Yeah. Every provider is different, and that's the good thing. Is there something she can Google to find someone who maybe approaches care like this? And I think that's what I would like to see change a little bit. We're not asking you to change who you are as a provider. We're asking you to care for a human and a heart and a soul. After my first miscarriage, I remembered feeling completely disconnected from my own body. And I set out to learn. I wanted to understand what happens in a pregnancy. How does this all come together to result in this beautiful life? And through my learning and through that journey, it kind of led me to a different method of care, kind of leaving the more traditional or more commonly known methods and kind of seeking out something a little bit different. And that led me to a form of care that felt right for my heart and my body. And before we dive into this conversation, I just really want to speak to the moms who've had a really, really horrible experience with a provider. I see you. You deserved better. And it should not have gone that way. And also, there are other providers out there who do things differently. And at the end of the day, not all of them are going to be great. And we acknowledge that. And there's no way around that. But today's conversation is with two women who have really taken a different approach and who are a couple of the great ones. And so I want to encourage a mom, if you don't feel seen, if you don't feel heard, if you don't feel respected for the whole human that you are, not just test results on a paper, it might be time to advocate for yourself, find a different provider. And that's the good news, is that there's other options. And so just want to encourage you in that. But as we dive in today, I am just overjoyed to chat with these two ladies. So Erin, Vande and Sarah Rowe are midwives, and they opened South Dakota's first freestanding birth clinic. And it's really evolved more so into full functional whole wellness health for the whole family. And you will notice very quickly in this conversation that these ladies have a vast knowledge about birth and pregnancy and reproductive health, but at the forefront of their care is caring for the human as a whole. Your emotions, your feelings, your mind, your spirit, all of that plays a role into your physical health. So I cannot wait for this conversation. I hope it is helpful for any mom who is sitting here post-loss wondering, now what? So let's dive in. All right, ladies, first things first. What is a midwife?
Midwife actually means with women. And so even back to biblical days, they were women that would be with other women, specifically during childbirth, but then also through just large events in their lives. Mm-hmm.
Love that. Mm-hmm. How do you compare yourselves, like the kind of care as a midwife? How does that compare to like maybe a more commonly known family practice, OBGYN? How does that compare and contrast?
I think the nice part is we were even able to talk about that, like when we worked in the hospital. And one of our OB colleagues was like, we see a complication until it proves to be normal. Like we're thinking through anything that can go wrong until a woman proves to be normal. And midwives definitely view childbirth as normal and women as normal. And we call ourselves like the guardians of natural childbirth and know it so well that if something deviates from normal, we're able to identify, like, are they getting sick? And then at that point, ask questions, but more trust the body at the very beginning, that it was created to do it, that it's not broke, like God designed it to work in that way. And so to trust the normal unless something deviates from it.
I love that. Yeah, just it kind of flips the whole thing on its head of like, there's a problem to be solved versus no, we trust that this design is more than capable. And then when you trust that everything is normal, then you can easier identify when things. Yeah, I love that. I love that approach. So tell us about your approach to care. How you approach maternity or maternal care, baby care, all the things.
I think part of even just creating Flourish was to create a relationship-based provider to patient approach and really get to know the person, dive deep into concerns and the root cause of things. And so it's very relational based, but then also, as far as pregnancy, like Erin said, we look at it as a normal, natural life event unless proven otherwise. And we kind of do that with overall general wellness as well. Yes, there's some things going on and we need to dig deeper into that, but your body is good and it's capable of healing. And if we can support it in the ways that it needs, it can sustain itself and heal itself.
I love that. I just love that. I think over the last even 5 years, there's just people are desiring a different kind of care, and I just think it's awesome that there's now options like this. So thank you guys for doing what you do. So this is a big question, but this is something for the women who have just had a miscarriage. I think so many of them sit there and wonder, well, now what? Like I remember going to my doctor after my first miscarriage and saying, well, what do I do now? And I think to some providers, and there's room for every kind of provider, but it just kind of felt like it was like, well, give your body a cycle and then just try again. And that was all she really could offer me. And I just felt a conviction in me of like, well, what can I do to make this not happen again? And I know I can't control it, but I feel like there are some things. And so with that said, I feel like there are other things that can possibly increase the risk of a miscarriage. So this is my question. What causes miscarriage? Like actually, like when there is an explainable reason. And I know this is a very broad question, but this is an important one.
It's probably the hardest one, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the hardest one. It's 2026, right? And so I think we would anticipate that medicine and testing and all of that would advance to a place to be able to say, hey, it's this, and sometimes we get that opportunity. But the most consistent thing, I think we're on the same page, that I can anchor into isn't even sciencey, to be completely honest. It's going back to God created our bodies to do this. He knows exactly what they need. And sometimes our bodies are genuinely so smart that they know if I didn't take this strain of DNA from mom and this strain from dad and zip it together exactly how it was supposed to zip together. If I know that I can't grow this to beautiful completion, it's very transactional in the body, right? Our physical body. I think that's probably the most consistent thing that we can assume. Are there other things? Genetics, progesterone, toxin. Yeah, the list of other things is kind of long, which is what makes it blurry and hard.
Right.
But the most consistent is like it actually needs perfection.
Yeah.
Like it really is delicate and it really does require like, man, it zipped and it did exactly what it needed to do.
I hope it gives moms some grace for themselves.
Oh, so much grace.
Because we're humans with feelings and emotions and all that is completely real. But at the base level, we are a living organism that was created to reproduce, and our bodies know how to do that. And our body loves us so much, and our body cares for us so well. And I think with my second miscarriage, Orion, it was so early. And that is kind of what the explanation was. Something was not right, and my body knew it from the get-go. That's the fact of it. The hard part comes into all the emotions and the feelings that come along with that. Like, well, what did I do wrong? What did my body do wrong? And it's, our bodies are so innately intelligent. And, I will never forget after my first miscarriage, I went and had an ultrasound to confirm that I had a miscarriage. And the nurse, she was so sweet, and she meant this with nothing but love. But she said, your body's doing a great job of getting rid of everything.
That's painful.
And I knew what she meant. I knew she was saying, you're not going to need a surgery. This is doing the natural process. But in my head, I was like, it's not my body's job to get rid of my baby. It's my body's job to hold on to my baby. But what you just said kind of flips that on its head of like, my body's job is to protect me. And something went wrong, and that's really heartbreaking. But thank God my body knows how to protect me.
Yes.
What a miracle our bodies are. And so I think, can you talk a little bit? I feel like I don't want to dial in on this because I don't want it to be a catch-all, but I do feel like lately progesterone is a huge deficiency for a lot of women. And I want to talk about it because it's also one of the easiest things to treat, in my opinion. And in my experience, I need a progesterone three times. And so can you talk a little bit about the role progesterone plays in pregnancy, how we supplement and how we correct it, either of you?
Yeah. Progesterone, helps with that uterine lining and helps you retain pregnancy. If it's really low, that lining isn't nutrient enough to allow a fetus to implant there. So there's a lot of things that can cause low progesterone. We're seeing more and more like PCOS and metabolic issues and inflammation in bodies, which drives down that progesterone level as well. But, like you said, it is actually really easy to replace, and you can do it in a bioidentical hormone form, and which is safest for your body, just to give it that little bit of support, usually just through the first trimester, and then you can stop it after 13 weeks.
For women who want to dive into progesterone, I remember with my most recent pregnancy, we started it, I think, right as I got a positive, or maybe a couple days before I even got a positive. When is the ideal time to start it? I mean, I think we tracked mine leading up and established, yes, I'm a little bit deficient. So we knew right away. But what's the best time for women to kind of look into that and to tackle it?
Yeah, I would say preconception. So when you're starting to prepare your body for pregnancy, having your hormone levels checked, ideally for progesterone, it's on cycle day 21 or a week after ovulation. And so having those hormones checked and make sure they're at an optimal level to be able to support a pregnancy would be the best timing. And if that doesn't happen, then as soon as you get a positive test.
Yeah.
It's like anything. If you can be preventative and proactive, even emotionally, you just feel more confident in that, right? Like you're not reacting then to, oh, my progesterone's low. Now what do I do?
Yeah. So the stress response.
Yes.
Which also, we don't want a stressful body when we're trying to make a baby.
Yeah. The stress response can drive down the progesterone, right?
Totally.
So,
yeah. Okay. The common approach of you have to have 3 losses before we'll test your hormone levels, I think, is a devastating reality for a lot of women. They get told that a lot. For me, 1 is enough. And I know we're up against a bigger beast. Insurance doesn't cover the test unless you've had multiple miscarriages. And what is your guys' approach to that? I think in a sense of, we understand that miscarriage is very common. It doesn't mean it's easy. But in my opinion, we are created to create. And so for me, 1 is enough. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Is 1 enough to trigger, like, we need to look in and see what's happening?
Yeah. And I think I think it goes back to what Sarah just said. Like, why do 1, right? Like, why not be in the preconception side of things and be looking at it? I think because of the world we live in now, like, we don't have to only rely on what our insurance will cover and what it won't, right? Like, there's enough direct access options for labs, for providers, for testing that actually is more cost effective than fertility doctors, right? And so really knowing we're learning and we know a lot. And so being able to push into that and find your resources, I think is super helpful.
Yeah. The cash pay for labs is actually way more financially reasonable than going through insurance. So we are able to, hormone levels are easy to check. So yes, 1 is terrible, but can we just check the levels after that? And if you wanted to do more extensive testing like clotting syndromes or other genetic markers that could be causing, you can pursue that as early as you want to. You don't have to wait for 3.
Yeah. Well, and I don't even think you have to wait for 1. I think just that proactive approach. And, I think of my daughter, she's almost 8 and I'm already, and it's my story, it's my life. And, of course I want to do everything I can to make sure this never happens to her, which I have no control over. I'm aware, but I can sit here and pretend I do, right? But I think about that. And, I think I'm really proud to be raising her in a way of like, we can take control of the health of our bodies and set our bodies up for success. And we don't have to be reactive. We can, if you know, and then sometimes you don't know you're about to have a baby, okay? That's life. But if you are ready to enter that stage of life, that being proactive is possible.
Yeah. And I don't think 8, we worked with an OB who was like, 8 is great, right? 9 might be too late. And it's just like to have that open conversation And I mean, in terms of just talking about periods and sex,
For
right?
sure.
Like,
Yeah,
we're just not waiting anymore
Right.
because of the
Mhm.
world we live in and
Yeah.
the information we have. But if we can teach our girls
Yeah.
before they even start getting a cycle,
Mhm.
here's what a cycle is.
Totally.
Here's what it should look like.
Yeah.
Just because something, I heard something the other day and it was like, just because something is common, like your friends have this heavy bleeding or this super crampy stuff, doesn't mean it's normal.
Right.
And the more we can normalize and push into our cycles and like how to regulate them, there's too many like factors in our environment that are already affecting our hormones
Yeah.
and our bodies and our
Mhm.
toxic load. And we could go on about that,
Yeah.
which we
Mhm.
won't.
We should.
But that conversation, that thought, that comes right into being proactive.
Yeah.
And I don't know what experience you had. And our mom is amazing, right? But it wasn't something that we commonly
Right.
had these big, long, open talks about. And even the period talk when I was in 5th grade looks different than
Yeah.
maybe what people are educating on now.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this resource we're creating, Uprooting Miscarriage,
Yes.
we're literally uprooting what kind of the status quo is right now, and
Yes.
we're tossing that and we're planting something new. And I think
Mhm.
changing this conversation, making this look different, planting something new looks like it starts with us. It starts with our generation and changing that conversation. I was just our community, it came up in conversation, like there's just this gap, I feel like millennials to about, I don't know if the woman's about 60. What happened there? Why weren't we talking about our bodies? What happened? Because I feel like it just did all of us a massive disservice.
Yes.
And now it's really refreshing and encouraging to see women like getting to know ourselves. And, you know, I'm TMI friends, but if you know me, like, let's plan our lives around our cycles a little bit, friends. If you want the most efficient, most productive, most joyful life, there's no reason with saying, I'm going to clear my calendar
Right.
when I'm, you know, hemorrhaging and miserable for a week. And
Yep.
so I think, yeah, just changing that conversation, flipping it on its head and saying, no, we can take a proactive approach to this, and we can have these conversations with our daughters. And
There, there's a lot of people that don't understand their cycle though, even.
Yes.
So just building awareness around this is what your cycle is, this is what is normal for your body, and learning how to build trust with your body, so that you know it'll do good things for you if you support it in the way that it needs.
Yeah. Is there a certain resource that you guys are familiar with that can really help a woman learn her cycle? Or one that you like?
I mean, there's so many good tools out
Yeah.
there now, like the Aura Ring and the Mira app, and just learning how to track ovulation, and just taking like a journal or a diary of
Being
this
aware.
is how I feel through the month, and and connect that to where you're at in your cycle. Yeah, being aware.
If you're not tracking your cycle, you know, like I am old enough in this sweet little conversation, like to remember when I had a checkbook and you would just like circle the date, you know, because you'd have the checkbook.
How old are you?
I was like born in the 1900s probably. But you know, like that's what we did. And I'm like, it was funny because we were always like, oh my gosh, my period came. That was actually probably something I should have been able to predict.
Should have been
right?
shocked.
Yeah.
I should not be shocked by this.
Yeah, it's in my calendar. My husband knows when it's coming.
Yeah. So I think even that there's some great resources in terms of like there's a book called The Period Repair Manual, you know, and I think it's written by someone from New Zealand, kind of the Australia area, who's just willing to have deeper conversations about some of the things. So I think in the world we live in now, there's more books and like information coming out, but even just a happy little tracker, you don't have to get fancy. The health app on your phone is going to do you some good work.
Yep.
And I think too, just being aware. I think we get so busy that we're just so disconnected from our body. And if you can just be like, how do I feel? What's things looking like? You know, like just being aware, having that consciousness of your own body, and learning what the stages are so you can better understand it. I love that. Something I think is getting more attention, as it should, especially recently, is the factor of dad's health in this, because I think in miscarriage, I know 100%. I was like, this is my fault. This is my fault. The baby was in me. And I know that that's not truth. But at the time, that's absolutely a thought that went through my mind. And I'm sure many women can relate. So can you talk a little bit about the role that dad's health plays in this?
I mean, I'll start and then you finish. That component is something that we try and address right away in terms of maternal response. Like the amount of times I've had people come back and say, well, did I bear down on the toilet too much? Or did I eat this and I shouldn't have? I'm like, the list that we can come up with as women is pretty extensive. And shame and guilt in those situations, especially as moms, and knowing like you were in me, like I should have been able to do something or protect you, is so accessible. And breaking up with that like right away feels super important, or at least gaining awareness of when it tries to, because it's not usually at 7 a.m. when the sun is shining and you're getting your morning sunshine, right? Like it's in dark, shadowy places that tries to kind of come and adhere and stick to us. And so like really having the awareness of that shame and guilt and just where it tries to creep in, and staying connected then, and we'll talk about dad's health, I'll let Sarah transition, but staying connected with your partner in that, so you have someone to say out loud, you know, too, like, whoa, this is feeling sticky for me. I know it's not just a me thing, but I need you to know this is what's trying to stick to me in the shadowy places where I can't quite shut my brain off.
Yeah. And I think before you dive in, I think it's a helpless feeling. Miscarriage is a helpless feeling. And as humans, we want to know why, right? And I think something just to touch on it, like health wise, to not point the fingers at mom or dad, you know, I think it can be so easy to be like, well, and then we do all these tests and we find out I was the problem or you were the problem. And I think just if you are going to approach testing, I would say we need to approach this with, this is for both of us. We're not going to point fingers. We just need a little bit more information so we know what our next steps are.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I was just going to dive in on men's health is super important, and it really does affect sperm quality and volume and all of that. So gut health is something that a lot of men are starting to dive into a little bit more, which I am ecstatic about, because gut health has a huge role on inflammation in the body. Just making sure that your diet is on track, that you're not consuming large amounts of caffeine or alcohol or things that could drive down testosterone levels. And then we oftentimes recommend a semen analysis just so we kind of know what is going on. And that is included in the testing, but approaching that, like you said, in a way of, this is not a blame. This is not a blame culture. This is us as a couple going in together and figuring out how we can better.
Well, and what a gift we have access to find out answers. Oh my gosh. Like, you know, for a long time, women didn't know, men didn't know, and they just went through life childless with that longing forever. And now we can find some stuff out. And I think the science of it is just fascinating. Like how, when you were talking, like, I feel like every baby is a result of a million miracles. And that starts with us and our health, and our health is a miracle. The way our bodies function is a miracle. And then you bring that together and there's like, it's just incredible. I recently saw something about the thought process was the fastest, strongest swimmer gets to the egg first. And that's kind of been flipped. Can you guys talk about that?
I just think that's also what men like to say, right? Like, oh, I have a strong swimmer, and they are, you know, they've been in the gym and they know exactly what they want. But the reality is sperm are not smart. And so that's why, I mean, they're just not. They're not intelligent. They're not smart. And I think that's why they live longer. The egg in its like most prime ripe form is about a 24-hour window. And so really it just confidently ovulates, comes down, is where it needs to be, but also has some signaling that, you know, kind of happens. And that's been something that I've learned even in the past few months with newer research, is just like, if you're ovulating, sometimes that actually isn't enough, right? Like we want a nice, strong signal with ovulation, meaning your hormones are responding in a really optimal way. It doesn't matter that the egg's just coming out. We need it to signal well so that it can help direct the sperm with where to go. That's why sperm live for 3 to 5 days, because they need a little bit longer.
They need a roadmap.
They need direction. Yes. And they rely on the signaling of that egg. And so we're often looking at not just, is ovulation happening, but is there enough signaling? Are your hormones responding after that in an optimal fashion? And even if there's like progesterone present, is it enough to thicken that lining and really help support the body in the way we would expect? You know, it's so necessary to know if there are sperm present, if there are healthy sperm, if the morphology is good, especially if you're going to enter into, like, I never want to take action with a mom's body or like add for sure medication, like ovulatory medications, if I don't know if there's even sperm. Right? Like that's a lot of work to alter something.
And that's putting a lot on the mom,
or
it may not even be what she needs.
Yes, exactly. So it's, I I also love our setting just because we have the opportunity to put couples in a room together and like talk about their health together, like men's health, women's health. And it kind of bridges that gap between saying like, well, this is you or this is me. I think not that it's wrong, but in systems, a lot of times you have to go to, here's your appointment, and now we'll go to my appointment. And oh, my appointment said that it's me, and that's where it kind of like silos men and women a little bit. And it really is like the combination of both.
Yeah. It leaves space for friction and some of that blame. And so, yes, if you can get them together in the same room, we're a team, we're approaching this together, we're supporting each other, and this is how we're going to go about it.
I love that. I think too, this conversation I feel like could be really overwhelming for a mom who's had a miscarriage to hear like all these things I have to worry about. But I just keep coming back. What keeps coming to my heart is like, allow this conversation to give you so much grace for yourself.
Yes.
Recognize how many pieces are at play, how many factors are at play, how many things have to go right. I promise your cold cut sandwich was not the problem.
No.
Okay. Like there are so many things. And I think that's what I want women to understand. Like if you want to understand what happens in a miscarriage, you have to understand how your body works and give yourself so much grace because there's so many things that could be, and I know that can be overwhelming, but I hope it brings freedom and just like peace because yes, if it's not this thing, it could be another thing and you could go down a rabbit trail forever. You really could.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just not going to work and that's heartbreaking. And I pray you have support if that happens, but just allow yourself to sit in the peace of, I didn't do one thing specifically wrong. There's so many things at play. Okay. There's no cure for miscarriage. Okay. We understand that. But I think we can all understand also when anyone's facing any kind of health struggle, there are things that can alleviate the symptoms, lessen the severity, decrease the chances. And so I also want to be clear, and I think we've stressed on this, it's no one's fault. Miscarriage is no one's fault. Our bodies are doing the best they can. But I think there are things we can do. And so what would you do for a woman coming to you who has just experienced a miscarriage? She doesn't know what to do next. What would you suggest to her? And if women aren't in a provider relationship like what you guys offer, what should a woman be asking her provider for? What kind of questions?
Yeah. I think just knowing how can I support my body now in this healing process.
Yeah.
Because
first things first.
Yeah, first things first. And there will be a healing process emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically that they have to go through. So we can provide the physical support. We can help them know these are the nourishing foods for your body. These are some supplements that can help your body rebalance and heal. IV therapy works really great for women who have kind of just gone through the loss and they're trying to give their body a little boost and their immune system a boost.
It's very depleting.
It is very depleting. Yes. Managing iron levels and, with the bleeding, making sure that those are staying up and their bodies are just supported physically.
Yeah.
We also have lots of resources that we can point them in the right direction for, mental health, emotional health, spiritual, if that's what they're looking for. That's not just for them, but also them and their partner. Because I don't know how many times I've had dads come in and they are just as distraught and heartbroken and asking the question, was this me? Was this my fault? What could I have done better? Which is so supportive for the mom because they're not blaming. They're just, we're in this together and we don't know. And so they're asking the same questions. They're just not always the most vocal about it. So being able to give resources for them too of, this is how we're going to support you because you just went through a loss also. So
I love that. This is why I love you guys because I envision this question being like, what labs? And you're like, no, we have to care for your heart first. I'm like, yes, you're so right. Okay.
The other thing though that's super worth pointing out is sperm found egg to have a miscarriage, right?
Yes.
There was some kind of sperm that found an egg.
Yes.
And that's what happened. So it's not always a fertility issue. So I think
it's not the at least you can get pregnant.
Yes.
Well, that's not what we're saying
No,
here.
we're
saying something is working correctly.
But I don't think we panic.
Yes.
And say like, oh, now you have infertility.
Right.
Like we just really have to. I love that approach. Like we have to pause a little bit. And just because I know your heart and where this is going, I also think there is that element of grief is so isolating, right? And I think it wants to kind of pit like mom and dad sometimes against each other and create that angst or stress. And just being able to pull back, I think so many times we ask the question why. And even when you said it earlier, I had someone really wise in the past year say to me, like, there are so many times we ask why. And then we could go through when, how, whatever. And she was like, how often do we say who? And after that, again, listened to a podcast. It was like, sometimes there isn't an answer, there isn't a why, but being able to pull back and make sure we're talking to the who of like, God, what do you want me to know? Like, what do you want me to know about this? And giving yourself and your person before you even come to Sarah or I and ask for like, what labs, what this, what that, just a pause moment of like, what do you want me to know? And what do you want me to do? And it's uncomfy. Like, I don't want to sit in that and wait. No human that I've met in life, I'd love to meet them if you have, is wired to wait. Like, we're not good at that. We're not created to wait. But being able to sit in that for a minute and just like, God, what do you want me to know? Like, what do you want me to do? And please don't leave me alone.
Yes.
And then recognizing, man, that's the consistent promise through scripture. Yeah, he's not going to do that, And so not letting yourself live in that isolation and asking that question right out of the gate. And then hopefully inviting providers, friends, whoever into the journey of like, okay, now what? Now where do we go? And then maybe it's the why or the how or the when.
And there's so many stages of grief. And I think one of the most dangerous one is the anger phase. And because you can get trapped and stuck in that for a while and just that bitterness takes root. And I encourage people to be like, God knows what you're feeling. He will not be surprised that you're angry right now. So I think it's okay to talk through that with him. Yes. Go ahead and let him handle that burden and try not to let the anger go towards the spouse. That's a safe space. And so you two need to stay united and not let that anger take root in the relationship.
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing you guys say, which I love, is just like, we can't take care of our physical self if our minds are not being taken care of and our hearts aren't being taken care of.
100%.
And the relationship of our full body health to our mental health, our spiritual health plays a direct, it's a direct impact on our physical health.
Our childbirth classes are meant to create a mind-body connection so that you can go through labor and understand what's happening with your body. The same thing is true during miscarriage. You're creating that mind-body connection because sometimes it can feel a little out of body. Like, I don't even know what's going on right now.
Girl.
So we have to incorporate that mental aspect of it.
And we're created in some physical situations, right? Like if there is a bear, I actually shouldn't think about it. I don't want to have an emotion. I should just run.
Right.
Like my physical body's going to start to, put me into fight or flight and I should run to save myself. So there are times that it's helpful to silo from each other. But I like to think of, even in our consults, like overall health, our physical body, our spiritual, emotional, and then our mental, like intellect, are almost like Olympic. We'll go with that because that just happened. Rings, right? Like concentric circles that have to have some link where they're like, oh no, we're staying connected. A lot of post-miscarriage work is rebuilding that trust with your body.
100%.
It's rebuilding and just being willing to, I tell women all the time, you actually might want to look in the mirror and like look at your physical body and say like, I am trying so hard to trust you. I'm trying. I know you did a hard thing. That was painful. It was painful for my body and my heart, but I'm trying to stay connected with you so that we can figure out where to go from here. I love you. Whatever affirmation you need to, hard
to say to yourself after it.
But if you look deep into your eyes, like past yourself, and just really like forge through that discomfort. I'm like, sometimes that's what hooks in your physical body to your emotional. It kind of keeps that little arm link together where no one's floating or trying to do their own thing and just survive.
Yeah. I love this. Okay. So we took care of heart, mind, things. What's your first step for physical care after we get through the important stuff there? Then what?
Yeah, supporting the cycle again and helping just to kind of rebuild that. So there are some supplements that help with recovery, like we talked about IV therapy. But then once the cycle resumes, oftentimes, you talked about labs, we'll follow the HCG level, which is the pregnancy hormone in your body, back down to 0 because that has to resolve before you can start cycle again and become pregnant again. And then just learning how to support the cycle after that, checking some labs maybe on that day 21 or waiting one full cycle and then checking labs. And hormones take a little bit just to rebalance and recalibrate. So
is it safe to say the further along you were in your pregnancy, the longer your hormones will take to rebalance, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. Okay. No. And everybody's body is different at the rate of which they kind of get back to quote unquote normal. Yeah, it's not.
It has a linear pattern where it gives us like checkpoints, right? To know what to check.
Yes.
But everyone's body does do it just a little bit different.
Are there any go-to root causes you are seeing most often right now? and this is a question that could be different. The answer could be different in a year, but
For miscarriage.
Yes,
Oh.
yes. I know that's a big one.
It is
Everyone's so
hard
different.
to know.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, it's a very nuanced thing.
Yes, what
My hope with this question is, where does a woman start?
Yeah.
Where does she start?
I think we've talked about this a few times, so I'll start with this and then you add whatever you want.
Okay.
But I think some trends that look different now compared to when we started practice. Progesterone used to be something that was a little more researched, a little more nuanced, and you saw like some criteria for when to start it and only then. And accessibility was different. In doing like even just general well checks, hormone consults, things like that, I have found there are like 20 to 25-year-olds not even on a reproductive journey who have less progesterone, testosterone, estradiol than my 65-year-old patient.
Wow.
And so we just have to ask those questions like, I mean, culturally a little bit, but environmentally, like, what are we doing? Like, what is our stress load? Like some of those things. I think that looks a lot different. Like, I think our parents could have said, like, well, we lived through some really stressful eras and stressful times. And that's true. And some of it might have been even war, right? Which we might think is worse. But I think the constant stimulation to our bodies, the access to screens, the internet information, the like pace that our brains are firing on is a stress that we
weren't built to manage.
No.
Yeah.
No. And so we just have to factor all that in. So progesterone is definitely something, and it's again low-hanging fruit, super safe, totally worth trending and seeing where that's at. I will also say, I recently asked one of the MFMs this too. I don't think we saw semen, like sperm variability as much as we do now. I think it was so long thought of that it's a female reproductive issue. Even in terms of things Sarah alluded to, like PCOS and metabolic things, that often was really directly related to the female. But we've seen quite a few like semen, sperm changes. Whether they're still present, but their morphology is bad, like the shape of them, they're not smart to start, right? So they got to really have it all lined up. Or just like the thickness, and it is perfection, right? Like the body really is asking for perfection when it's bringing everything together. And there's enough variations from normal more often than not in sperm analysis. And I didn't see that as much early in practice. So obviously we're taking our small cohort and kind of also, they're writing books about it now. So someone else has to be experiencing it. I'm like, we have these on our shelf.
Yeah. I've also seen quite a bit of insulin resistance.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I think a lot of that comes from, of course, the American diet and the food that we're consuming, but also the endocrine disruptors in our environment of plastics and BPAs and just taking a receipt from the gas station. Like you're constantly getting in contact with endocrine disruptors. And so,
can you explain what is an endocrine disruptor?
Yes, they are things that can alter your hormone production and metabolization. And so we're seeing a lot of what we call insulin resistance, which is a metabolic disorder where your body is not getting the appropriate signal for insulin production and it's not using it the way that it should be, which is in turn increasing inflammation in the body. And inflammation does crazy things to all the systems.
One system is not independent in the body.
Exactly.
They're all connected. And I think, again, I don't want this episode to be overwhelming for any mom, but it's just the fact of we have to understand our bodies are a whole unit. And these are, to me, like you said, low-hanging fruit. It's so easy to decrease your sugar intake. It's so easy to cut inflammatory oils from your system, from your diet. And not easy. It's not easy. Let's be honest. It's something you can do on your own. There's no special tests. It's fixable. You can correct that. Thank goodness. That's the other thing. Our bodies are so amazing. They can self-correct. They can heal themselves. And I think these things, I think women just maybe are told or they assume, well, it's just my reproductive system. Maybe it's not. Maybe you just need to cut out canola oil, girlfriend. And cool. If that's the thing, we can do that.
We can do that.
And so I think understanding the system or understanding the body as a system as a whole and understanding maybe we don't jump right to your eggs. Maybe the gut, like the role the gut plays in our overall health. There's just so many things. And we don't have time to dive into everything, but I just want women to know that there's a bigger picture at play. And again, we don't want to send a woman on a spiraling, rampage, but I also want her to know that if you're just being told, well, you're not ovulating correctly. Okay, there's other factors at play that we can learn about and be curious about and not blame ourselves for.
Right.
But maybe we can be curious and
just
find a path
be
forward.
empowered to take control of and fix.
Yeah, for sure. You're not helpless in this. You're really not. And I think it's not about, becoming obsessive about it. It's about saying, what can I learn about my body? What can I be curious about to move forward? Is there anything else you want women who are listening? So we're speaking to a mom who just had a miscarriage. Maybe it was her first or third, and she is just feeling hopeless. She doesn't know what to do next. If she was sitting in this room, what would you say to her?
I think that hopelessness is probably so accessible. And so the first person I would bring along in the journey, and it could be someone medical, it could be a friend, it could be your partner. I mean, it honestly doesn't matter, but you need someone to hold hope for you until you feel it come back. And when you're feeling hopeless, it is very hard to connect. What do I even do? What's my next right thing? And so bringing a human, we're created for community. We're created for connectedness. And I'm feeling a little protective, right? So I want to make sure and defend you against the isolation that grief can bring. The isolation and like the miscarriage grief is so unique, right? And the key component where I think the enemy works is isolation. And so bringing someone in to hold hope with you, even if you can't talk, you might not, I don't think it's a narrative we have words to always put to, because it's probably something unique that you haven't experienced, and it's not the most relatable in every circle, right? So if you can bring a human to hold hope with you, I think the other thing is, really pushing into a provider who will create space for you. And if they don't know, they'll be willing just to walk with you and learn about your body with you and alongside you, to be able to highlight like, oh, your body's doing this. This is what this looks like, and not necessarily be like, oh, here's how we're going to fix it. Here's like the next step. Here's your options. Pick what you want.
Right.
But more so like learn about your body alongside you, because there's such like innate things that happen, and each of our blueprints are so different that there are some of those caveats sometimes where I'm like, oh, you actually ovulate on this day, which doesn't fit my textbook 28-day cycle picture, but I can see in the symptoms your body's having, this is what's happening. This is you. This is what you're doing. And if you're learning that, might as well have someone learn alongside you, because the empowerment I think that comes in that space is what all of a sudden you don't even realize it happens, but you've already carried your hope back. Like you've taken it back from whoever is holding it for you in the gap. As you gain confidence, as you rebuild that trust with your body, I think a woman who has her hope back is pretty unstoppable, pretty powerful.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's the easiest place to be then moving forward.
What would you say?
Well, Erin and I have never been shy about our faith. And so we definitely incorporate that into loss, because whether you're a believer or not, you need to know that there is a higher power and there is a bigger answer or reason that we may never understand and we may actually never get an answer to. But there is somebody out there that knew exactly every hair on your baby's head before they were even born and what their value of their life is. And they continue to hold that value with you. So we incorporate that a lot. I pray over everyone if I can, and whether they're a believer or not, it does not matter to me. They get to know that I am choosing to hold space for this, and lifting it up if they feel like they can't. So
I love that.
Yeah, we're all hugging.
We're all hugging.
Even if we're not a hugger, would just warn you before we come in.
I love it. You guys are huggers. If a mom's looking for care like you provide, are you limited to just women who are here in the local area? And if you are, how can she seek out? Is there like a resource where she can find this kind of care where she's at?
We're not limited to this area, but if we're doing telehealth, it has to be in a state that we're licensed in.
Sure.
So South Dakota is a compact state, so we do have a reach, but it's not nationwide. So
Is there a resource out there for women who are looking for like a different approach to care similar to what you're offering? Is there kind of a path she can go down to find someone, or is it a little bit more nuanced than that?
I mean, I think it's becoming more popular of just like individualized care and not big health systems.
Maybe a better question would be, is there something she can Google to find someone who maybe approaches care like this is a certain kind of doctor, provider with a certain kind of title that typically will approach care in a similar way.
I mean, a midwife.
A midwife. Yeah.
Or a functional OB. I think
Yeah.
you're going to find it in smaller clinics.
Yes.
Like
Okay.
where maybe they're not associated with like big systems because the protocol drives the approach, right?
Yes.
But if you see like a smaller clinic or a birth center or a functional OB, they've already chosen to like title themselves in a way that looks different.
Yeah.
So I love that you guys talked about we have to care for the heart and the emotions and the feelings first. Can we brag about Evermore just a little bit? You guys have implemented something into your practice that I hope has been really helpful. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, and it has been extremely helpful and very impactful. Evermore Blooms has provided us miscarriage or loss bags that are filled with so much intentional goodness that we feel so honored and blessed to be able to provide these families with. And it does impact them as well. They'll talk about it years later of, yes, I got that bag and that was so impactful for me. So we can either give it to them with our first visit, exposure to that. Or often, when they come back in for, let's say, a lab draw, they're checking their HCG level or just a pop in, maybe an ultrasound. Instead of having that be more of a transactional event, we're able to give them the bag at that time, and it just kind of ties in that feeling of you're not alone. We're still here. We're walking with you. We're supporting you wherever you need it to be.
Just kind of crazy. There was a mom that reached out to us in our community, and she had helped us pack those care bags years ago. And then she got one from you guys. And she messaged me and she was like, this is so surreal. I helped pack these and now I got one. And so I just closing that loop of like what we're trying to do, and then having providers like you who are willing to partner with us, closing that loop and caring for that mom. Holy smokes. And so, I think our care bags have been really, really special. And I think it's things like that I think providers can implement. Even, every provider is different, and that's a good thing. It's a great thing that you have options. But for maybe those providers that aren't so fuzzy or warm and cozy, giving them something. And I think that's what I would like to see change a little bit is we're not asking you to change who you are as a provider. We're not asking you to change your approach to care. We're asking you to care for a human and a heart and a soul. And I think those can just be a small thing to help. And so I just appreciate that you guys just care for the whole body. So the heart, all of it. So as you guys know, Evermore Blooms exists to support women through miscarriage. One of the main ways we do that is by sending them flowers on those really hard days. And so just to end this on a happy note, or maybe it's not happy, but whatever. What is one of the most favorite memories you have regarding flowers?
I think the word flourish is kind of rooted in that, right? There's so much blooming. And I have two memories that really anchor into flowers. One, I am not a born Dutch girl, but obviously have married into it and now been a part of it for a while. And like tulips and the tulip festival and, just like the celebration of culture, I think has been so fun, like to watch develop in my kids and to be a part of. And then the second thing would be like our grandma Norma and then her mom, great grandma Burdell. Like they just were so good at keeping flowers alive and just like thriving gardens. And I mean, I have young memories, right, of just being able to play in those spaces and like be dirty and have her point out like these are annuals and these are, I don't even know, girl, but the differences between them and watching that be something that they cultivated between the two of them, I think was special. Our grandma still colors like pictures of flowers and it's like, I had this in my garden and sweet memories, I think, of how
just so impactful to so many people.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually was one of those people that used to say, I don't need flowers. Like, don't buy me something that might die or any, but when I receive them, I feel so much joy. And so, especially for the just because or congratulations or I love you. And they really do make you smile. And you look at them every day. I walk by them in the kitchen. I'm like, oh, I do love those.
I love that.
So, yes, I think they bring joy.
That's awesome. Thank you to Erin and Sarah for your time today. And we hope that this was a blessing to you and it gives you somewhere to go from here. A reminder from all of us, you are not alone in this. You did nothing wrong. It was not your fault. And you are not broken. Thank you for listening. And we hope that this conversation blessed you in some way.